There's a place inside, you gotta let it shine, let it go. You don't need to hide. Soul talking. Soul talking.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to my first episode of Soul Talking, the interviews, the in-interviews, which are mainly about my courses and the experience of other students who've been on my courses for animal communication, but also about their lives and about what brought them to spirituality. Today, I have got a beautiful lady with me. Her name's Ginny Horton Suarez. And Ginny came on my courses last year on my 2-day course. And I thought it would be really lovely to start this series of Soul Talking with Ginny. So hello, Ginny.
Hi,
Welcome.
Richard. Hi.
Hi, Ginny. It's really lovely to have you here. And thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I find you such an interesting person from the very first day that I met you. So I'm really feel quite privileged that you've come on and done this with me. So thank you.
Well, thank you for asking.
You're welcome. So, Ginny, you've had a varied, I'm going to talk about the courses in a little bit and your experiences, but for everybody watching, it'd be lovely to find out a bit more about you. So you've had a varied life with animals and horses. Can you tell me more?
Well, I grew up with horses. My mum had horses, I had ponies, and it was all very traditional, very BHS as it was in that time.
Yeah.
And I grew up and did the exams and joined the riding club and had a lovely time. But it always
Is this
felt
the
like
80s?
Yes.
The 80s were great.
Yeah, exactly.
So you were doing all of that in your fluorescent socks and gloves and...
Yeah. Fingerless
Go on.
gloves, yeah. And yeah, and having a great time and not really knowing that there was anything else out there. I took a break when I discovered boys as a teenager, and then as most girls do.
Not just girls.
And then later on, I think I was in my early 20s, I started sharing a horse locally again. And then my mum, Christmas morning, I went up to the yard and there was a big red ribbon on the stable door, and she'd bought this horse for me as a Christmas present.
Oh my goodness. How sweet.
Yeah, it was the best present ever.
How old were you?
Oh, I was in my early 20s.
Oh, that is so lovely. So that was your very own, very first horse?
Yes, yeah.
Who
her
was
name
it?
Was Millie.
Millie.
Her name was Millie, yeah. And she taught me, she was a school mistress. She'd done everything. And we did a bit of showing. We did some cross country and we just had a lovely time. But unfortunately, she ended up having colic. She went through the surgery. And I had her for another 12 months after that, but she got colic again. So unfortunately, that was my first experience of loss as well as the ownership.
Oh my goodness.
And so after that, I had empty stable syndrome. So I rushed out and bought the first most unsuitable horse just so I've got another one.
Do you know, this is what we do. I mean, I don't want to go on too much about grieving and that whole process, but that is part of it. That's what we do. We have this void and we want to fill it, and we're not always in the right place at that point in our minds to make the right decisions. But
no, that's
anyway.
right. And she was very capable. Her name was Tizzy, and she was a thoroughbred. Tizzy. Completely not suitable for me, but I just felt a connection with her that she needed loving. I've never been a particularly competent, confident rider. For me, it's always been about the relationship and the horsemanship. That's always been more of a priority for me.
Has it? Okay.
Yeah, very much so. And so the fact that she could jump 4 foot didn't occur to me that I might not be able to cope with that as a rider. All I could see was that this man needed a loving home. And so she was installed into my stable, and then she was quite a tricky mare. I was so overhorsed.
Right. For people that don't understand what you mean by that, what overhorse?
She was much more forward going, much more. She was much sharper in her responses. She was much more athletic than I could.
She was quite sharp.
Yes.
Yeah. And sensitive.
So,
I mean, all animals are sensitive like us, but different breeds can be more sensitive than others. And depending on the life that they've had and the conditioning, they can be very sensitive, can't they? And that tends to happen a lot with thoroughbreds anyway. So I can imagine it was quite, you must have gone to the stable sometimes and thought, what have I done?
I did many times, and naively, I thought that if I loved her enough, it would work, and it didn't. And it got to the point where I was too scared to ride her because she'd sort of spin and this kind of thing, and I just wasn't at that time, able to cope with that.
Right. What happened then? So after that.
So I went to a dealer's yard, and I went again with my mum, and she came with me.
Your mum's lovely, by the way. Your mum's lovely. I've got to say hello to your mum when she's watching, if she watches. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Anyway, so she took you to this yard. Yeah.
No, she didn't actually. She came with, my first outing was with my auntie Mary, and she came, and I told them I wanted something very steady, and they put all these horses out, and each one of them, they didn't do anything, but I just it was still too much. And then the lady said, "Oh, go and get Skippy." So out they dragged this orange cart horse that plodded in. And then they said, "Look, this is the absolute, the most solid, stoic one that we've got here."
This sounds fantastic. This is the sort of horse that I'm sure lots of people watching would love to walk out of a stable for them.
Absolutely. And I got on her and trotted round, and shows what immediately we clicked. And I even popped her over a little jump.
Wow.
So I came home and I said to my mum, I found the one. And so what they agreed to do is they took Tizzy, and they said they'd find her a more suitable home. And I was going to have Skippy. So I brought my mum and who was my Anne, who was my riding instructor at the time. They came back, and they'd given me a very strict list: no mares, no chestnuts. So when I showed them, and
chestnuts always get a bad rap.
Yeah, and then this took them to the stable, and this horse, Skippy, she just put her chin on my shoulder, and both of them just looked at each other and said, "Well, that's a done job, isn't it?" How
did that feel? Can you remember how that moment? So that obviously felt a real poignant moment of that energy with the horse and you. How did it feel?
It was in that moment. In that moment, I renamed her Saving Grace, because that's literally what she was to me. And
it makes my heart melt. It was very emotional.
It was, many happy years with her. And then she had an injury, so she went on to be a brood mare, so she still had a job. She couldn't be ridden anymore. Oh, and then several more horses later.
Lots of horses.
Lots of horses, but while I'd got Grace, Mum had heard of another filly that needed rehoming from a polo yard from where she lived, and she was sort of semi-feral, and she was too big for polo, and they were just needed a home for her free, just sort of get rid of her.
Gosh.
And because Grace had the injury, and we were thinking about rehoming her, my mum said, "Well, why don't you take her? You're experienced, you can easily back her and train her and everything." So again, long story short, I just went and collected this horse.
Wonderful.
And that's when everything changed.
Everything changed.
Yeah,
in what way?
everything I thought I knew turned on its head with horses, because this mare she'd been quite roughly handled. She was scared of everything and everyone.
Right.
And my instructor, Anne, helped me back her, and we did a great job with her. But she was still very, very sensitive and very fearful and untrusting. And that's how I discovered Pirelli.
Yeah, so you did Pirelli, didn't you?
Yeah, and Monty Roberts. I went down to Whitney and did a course with, it was Kelly Marks, actually, who took the course.
What was it like? What was that like? Because I've met Kelly, and she's lovely, and I've been to quite a few of those events, some of which Monty's done. What was it like? What was that experience? Because that's different, because you've just said about how you came from BHS training, then you've gone into some Pirelli. So these can be quite intense training to a certain style and way. And some people can feel they're quite rigid. Okay.
Yeah.
So Monty's not, and Kelly's not like that. It's a little bit more, however it needs to go is how it will go. So how did that feel going there?
Well, that felt like a door opening, and a whole new world. A whole new world was opened up to me. Unfortunately, I couldn't do any more of Kelly's courses because sort of beyond join up. I mean, that work helped me no end.
Yeah.
But I still kind of felt that it was still in the round pen. The horse is still trapped. So no matter what technique you're using, it still can't leave. So of course it's going to submit in the end. But I still felt that no matter how nice it seemed, it was still a very dominant procedure.
And perhaps not equal. I mean, what we look for in our work in animal communication is being on the same level with the animal, where we're equal, and that there's that respect there. And I do see they have respect for the animals that they work with, but there's very much still they're an animal. They're getting that level right, that balance. Can be difficult, but then they're not coming from a spiritual place, are they? You know, they're coming from a behavioural, understanding it from a herd point of view, how it works, and being a herd leader to help the horse. I get it. So you did get something from it, but it just kind of didn't feel quite right for you.
No, so from then I studied a diploma in equine psychology and horse behaviour, because I wanted more science.
Didn't know that.
So, yeah, more science behind it. It was a 6-month course. It took me 3 years to do, but I passed with a distinction, and that really taught me an awful lot as well about things that some of the things that people say that aren't true, like with the poor horses that are cribbing or weaving, and you don't put another horse in the same barn with that one, because they'll watch it and copy it. Don't understand that it's the environment that's the issue, not that the horse isn't going to.
Well, it's mental health, isn't it? It's their mental health that's so affected in that situation. I always feel it's very, very sad, and also very sad that a lot of people in the horse world wouldn't choose, or they would overlook a horse because it did something like that. But then we wouldn't necessarily do that with a human if they had a mental illness, you know. And it is that what's happened to them in those situations. We're talking about vices like cribbing or weaving or whatever, has all come from human conditioning and the way that they've been kept. It's very complicated for a horse and an animal in general being in captivity, and this is what happens. It must be difficult, or well, not difficult, but I'm listening to you. You've come from training in these different areas. You've clearly got quite a scientific, inquiring mind. Because I remember this when you came on the course, you've been quite, you know, there's a scientific side to you where there's proof needed and things like that, or there was. And then yet there's this beautiful spiritual side to all this empathy with the animals that comes in. So actually, that can be quite a juxtaposition to be in, because some people are more scientific, some people are more, you know, they're more lean towards being more empathists and being spiritual. So for you, you've come from two places colliding together. How did that start to unravel to take you more to the spiritual side from the scientific?
Sort of secretly, I've always been very spiritual. My dad always used to talk about astral projection, and he was very spiritual. And I grew up with that being normal language.
Wow.
And I used to regularly go to a spiritualist church, and I was even part of a circle. And but that started a bit too heavy for me. Again, I was a lot younger then, and it was really quite intense, and I found it was just too much for me at that time. Yeah. But I knew it was something that I believed in, and also over the years I had this real, it's difficult to describe, but I just loved animals, but mainly horses, but and my own animals with such a deep strength, like I can only assume it's how human mums feel about their children. That's
protection.
It's like that for me. I love them. I just love them so strongly, and worry about them, and almost have separation anxiety almost sometimes when I go on holiday and this kind of thing.
But they're our family, aren't they? They become our family.
Yeah, but over the years, I've heard voices in my head, but only in times of when I was in danger. When I'd been out riding, 2 or 3 times there'd been a voice that said, be careful, car, or something like that. And I thought, where did that voice come from? Yes.
Is it someone in the house?
And so I kind of knew, but never really explored it too much. And then so going
then
through
you met
that,
your husband. You met your husband.
Yes.
Guess things changed then.
Oh my goodness, they changed. Yeah, they changed even more, because he was playing polo, and he's from Argentina. His father produced polo ponies, and they were shipped over here. And again, that's caused some very interesting conversations and discussions between us, because
I'm sure.
I mean, there's fantastic horsemen over there. They really are. But the difference is they have to use much stronger techniques, because their horses are wild until they're 4 years old. They're living on the plain, never seen a human. So when they need some more to break, as they say, the horses are much bigger and stronger, and so then they need to use stronger methods for breaking. And so I was trying to explain to him about, or we have conversations, is it kinder for horses in domesticity to know humans when they're from a foal, so it's less stressful, but then they've never known the real life as a horse. I think it must, but it's nice for them to have the real life for 4 years, but then the stress levels are going to be more intense.
Absolutely. No, I get it. And you talked, when I chatted to you before, it was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. And I guess you've kind of answered that to some extent. There's some balance in the relationships dynamics. But can you explain that a little bit more about what that means to you from coming in as a spiritual person, being around horses that are in polo or racing?
Oh, it just breaks my heart, to be honest with you. It absolutely breaks it. You can see that there's just nothing behind their eyes. They're just machines, and but then how far do you go? Horses in industry, they're rushed. They're used as toys and used for making money. Horses in the riding club world, or pleasure horses, let's say, is it the same but just on a different level? Because we're still a lot of people still ask them to do things that they're not fit enough to do, that they're not capable of doing, just because they want to do that.
I guess you could unravel anything, any world with horses, discipline with horses, if you wanted to. We could even unravel it to the point that, you know, we're putting on them to ride them in the first place, even if it's just a lady going down the road having a hack. Why is that any different? You know, we're still putting onto the horse, but it's about having that empathy and that connection, isn't it? That's what I always talk about. If we have that connection with our horse on a deeper level, like through the communication side, then we get a better understanding of what the horse wants or doesn't want, and we have so much respect for them that we will allow that to be however we allow them to lead the way, so to speak, instead of us as humans being the ones leading the way all the time. It's kind of walking next to the horse, isn't it? And being an equal with them. And that's what's so difficult, being a human and having them in captivity. But for sure, I get where you're coming from. I really do. And the racing side for me, I think for me, I just feel it's so sad that they're so young when they go into that life. And it's very institutionalizing for them. In a way that perhaps for Joe Bloggs with a couple of horses in a field with some little stables, it's not quite the same. So there is definitely an institutionalizing effect going on. But what a difference people like us can make for these animals. Can you tell me, explain to everybody, because you went on a little holiday, didn't you? I call it holiday. You went on a ranching holiday. Was it a ranching holiday?
It was, and I went to Montana.
Part of your journey.
Part of my journey, yeah, because again, through the Pirelli world, you get very indoctrinated with the Western horsemen, the Ray Hunts, and the natural horsemanship. And Buck Brannaman is a one that's very well respected and the chap that runs this ranch is one of his friends, and Buck goes there regularly to teach. Unfortunately, the week I went, there was so much snow, we couldn't actually get out on the ranch.
Oh, no. What?
So we had to do everything in this massive indoor arena, including learning how to cut plows and things like that. But
did you enjoy it?
Yes, it was lovely, really nice. And again, a different style, different technique, but still, it was dominant training.
And that seems to be the trail of the whole thing here, doesn't it, with you? It's you're identifying in all these different disciplines and areas, there's still this level of dominance. So then what then? What happened for Ginny then? Because you're still seeing, you've looked at all these different areas, you've searched, and there's something missing. Feels like there's something not quite clicking together. Like you said, there's this dominance from humans towards the animals, or horses specifically with you. So where did you go from there?
Well, I started hearing more voices. And I just felt, it was just a feeling. I felt I needed to explore this because I was hearing voices and things were happening. And it was from my animals. And the horse I've got at the moment, Orion, I've only had him 2 years. The horse prior to him was Anthony. Yeah, he was the love of my life and unfortunately died very traumatically. I'm still traumatized by it now, and I don't think I'll ever get over it.
Okay.
But
it's hard. I get it.
Yeah, I know.
To talk about it's hard, isn't it?
It is. And then Orion came into my life, and it was something about him that triggered me, almost encouraged me to believe in this and to explore it further.
In spirituality.
Yes.
Through the loss, do you think through the loss, that was also part of it?
Yes, because I just felt it so keenly, and I just so devastated. And I just, I don't know. There was, I think again, Mum might have been involved with this again. I think because she recommend, because obviously you knew her anyway, and
yeah, I went out to work with some of the horses there. I think it was, I don't know who I came out to work with, but I definitely came out to work with hers and another horse as well.
Yeah, I can't remember which ones, but
I remember your mum was lovely.
Yeah, and then I contacted you, and you said you'd do a reading for Orion.
That's right.
And then you did, and the rest, as they say, is history, because then...
That's it. You got on the course. You actually... I got this email, and you were very excited, and I think quite apprehensive, as much as from a confidence point of view, to come on the course.
I think I was just so desperate to do it, and so... Yeah. And I was just so intense about it, because
there was a massive passion there.
Yeah, it's finally the thing that I've been looking for that resonated with me.
So you got in touch.
Yeah, I got in touch, and we did the course. And
I said you could do it. I said, all right, then. Yeah. I was a bit like, oh, I don't know, really. Should I say yeah? No, of course not. I was like, come on in. Let's help you. Let's help enlighten and guide you. So you turned up on that day.
Yeah, hubby dropped me off. Left me there.
He brought you all the way, because you were living quite a long way away, so it was quite a drive, but you were there on time.
Yes, just about. Yeah, and walked into a room full of strangers, but I've never felt more at home.
Yeah, because I think that's what a lot of people talk about, is that they're always worried about being in a group with other people, but they are so like-minded. I do make sure that it's the right group for everybody. You know, they've all got, I think it's that overwhelming sense of empathy that's in the room, and love for the animals.
Very much so. Definitely. And also, it felt like such a safe space, because this isn't a subject you can talk to just anybody about, because it's not understood, or it's not accepted.
Sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good to have a tribe, isn't it? I always talk about having a tribe that you can be part of, even if it's just now and then in groups, where you can feel. So many people go to those courses and they just take they feel amazing, because, and I say, are you okay? And they're like, I'm just like, for the first time in my life, I'm able to be, like you've said, around people that get it. And they feel quite emotional about it in that moment. They've been looking all their lives to find that place. You did. You were there.
Yeah, and I think because you're actually there and you're doing it, not just reading books and trying to do it yourself. It's actually living the moment with like-minded people, and as some of the experiences are quite personal, and some of the baggage that you need to let go of.
Was big for you.
Yes, it was. Yeah. But thank you, because it's changed my world. It's changed my whole life.
Well, I know you say this to me, and I feel very. I always keep using the word humble, because I can't think of anything else. But you saying that does feel like that. I'm just glad that in some way I've helped you to get to where you're going today, which we'll talk about in a minute. But just going back to the course, can you, just for people that are watching, explain anything about your experiences and the different bits and pieces you did? Anything that really stands out to you that was quite poignant? I know the letting go side was, and I know that a lot of people don't expect that on the course. They come in just to animal communication, and they don't realise they've got to look at themselves. And you really looked at yourselves, Ginny, like beyond it. You were so open. You've got to have that. You've got to be open, haven't you? And want to let go, to let go.
Yeah, looking in the mirror is quite a difficult thing to do, and admit admit things about yourself that perhaps you've always known, but you don't want to talk about or go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But it was such a release, and it was so fantastic. I mean, the meditation that really helped me, and it's something I do every day now.
Good. I'm really glad to hear this.
Even if it's only 5 minutes, and it doesn't have to be sitting down with the guided meditation. I do walking meditations, just going out for a walk. Or the other day I was sitting in the field with Orion. The sun was shining, although it was cold, and I was sitting meditating with him. And then the yard owner came down to the field, and she said, "Oh, I just needed to make sure that you hadn't collapsed in the field." She said, "I've been looking at you through my binoculars."
And you were like, "Go away, leave me alone." Love and light.
But so I was still moving, so she was okay. But
a lot of people don't get that. They don't get that about meditation. Lots of people are put off with meditation because they feel it's going to be sit down, be really quiet for like 20 minutes or a long period of time. And what they're going to do, and obviously with our minds being so busy all the time, that can be really difficult. So I love the fact you've explained that you could just do 5 minutes here, there, doing walking meditation.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, when you're walking your dog and because our yard is quite big and there's a beautiful orchard, I just go for a walk. And the wildlife and the nature that I'm so aware of now, I mean, I see owls, herons, weasels, all stuff that was there before, but I just didn't see it, no. And now so sort of every time I see something like that, I say thank you, and then just appreciate it.
You have more appreciation. You are somebody that I would say, and I hope I'm not speaking out of term, you struggled to live in the moment before I met you. Yes. And you're very much living in the moment now.
Absolutely.
It's got to be you having this understanding has just helped you so much to let go. I think that's wonderful. As well as the meditation and letting go, what other areas of the course really stood out for you that were quite, I keep saying poignant, really monumental moments? Doing the readings?
Oh my goodness, yes. Realising that I could do it.
Yeah. Was it hard? Was it hard to learn the process that I taught you? No,
it was just... When I did that first reading, and Penny, my partner on the course, when I told her what I'd felt from her, the photograph of her lovely horse, and then when she explained what had happened, and it was as I described, it was just like the floor had fallen away from underneath me. It was just monumental to think, okay, I'm just scratching the surface here, and it was just a big thank you finally, and it was almost like just a massive relief. That, not that you can do it, but that something that you believe in and so passionate about is open to you.
And what was it like going to meet the animals the second day of the course? Because obviously everything we put into practice for the first day and a half, and then there you are, I launch you out the car straight at these horses and animals waiting for you with so much to say. I don't literally throw you out the car, you drove yourself. You know what I mean?
Well, I was a bit, I won't lie, I was a little bit sort of worried / overwhelmed, because it's happened in the classroom, but then you've got a real life horse in front of you. But I think what was great the first time, because we did it in a group and we all had to go with the same horse. And that was really helpful because you were there supporting and encouraging. And when we were trying to make sense of the information we were receiving, you helped us piece that together. So
like jigsaw, isn't it? It's like a jigsaw.
Yeah, very much.
You're standing there with an animal and there's all these pieces on the floor and you've got to put them together. And I guess, did it help having Matt do the confidence workshop with you? Did that give you, because he does this boost of confidence workshop before you actually go out to the animals. Did that resonate with you?
Yeah, it really did. And it's about the confidence and the trust is there's such a fuzzy line between the two. You can't have one without the other. No. And having the confidence to be able to even say what's in your mind, to even be able to say those words, is I don't know if you remember me with the lumberjack. I said I could see a lumberjack.
Oh yeah.
Chopping wood, and I mean, where does that come from? And
it comes from the animal. That's how they've showed you, and then it's for you as the. I always say that we are as animal communicators, interpreters. So it's like we take what they show, but we've got to make sense of it. It's not always, as you know, Ginny, it's not always shown directly exactly as it is. They're using our brains and how our brains work, and we've got to put the pieces together of what they're saying.
Yeah.
And I guess that was a big thing for you. That was that moment that you had that realization.
Because I didn't realize that they were going to be using metaphors and visual images, like you just said, that we needed to then translate again.
It's not always literal.
No, and I suppose that was the biggest learning curve for me, because before, when I'd heard the voices, they were words, whereas this time it was very much in my mind.
Did you hear voices? Did you still hear voices with the animals?
Yeah, not as much though. For me, it's mainly visual in my mind.
And feelings. It's feelings.
Yeah.
So the lumberjack thing. So can you explain that? Because other people will be wondering what we mean by lumberjack.
Well, we would. What was the name of the pony? I've forgotten his name.
I can't remember actually. I think it was Norman.
Norman, that's right. It was Norman.
Yeah.
And we were just trying to get information, weren't we? And
see what you wanted to show. Yeah.
Yeah, and I got my hands on him, and he was showing me a lumberjack in a green and cream felt jacket, and he was whistling while he was working, but he was chopping wood. And you explained to me that it was a job, and that he was happy in his job, he was happy in his work. And then you went on to explain that Norman worked with disabled children.
Yeah, he'd been at an RDA centre, and the colours that he'd showed you were exactly those colours that they would wear. And he had a very busy life. He always feels he's got a job to do, helping others. And the whole, you said about the whistling and everything, there's always so many different sounds and noises coming from the kids when they're on it. And in fact, our son actually whistles a lot when he's on him. So it was just like there was so much happened at that moment that all came from lumberjack. So that helped you.
Yes, very much so, very much.
Moving forward.
Yeah. And then when you said, right, you're going to do one on your own.
Get on with it, Ginny. Was I like that?
Yeah. No, that was good because you kind of got a little bit of confidence, but you do need that little extra push and that little extra boost.
Of course you do.
Right, otherwise, what's the point?
I will just add, I wasn't after you with a whip. Can you just confirm that for me, please?
No, I will confirm. Yeah, very much so.
No, so that was then. What about the advanced course?
Well, more of the same, but just again another incredible experience. And I wanted to show you actually. Look what I've got.
You've got your ribbons. I always talk about ribbons and colour and getting feelings for all the colours in your life, which will help you open up with your communication. How wonderful. So you've got your ribbons.
Yeah, and I've got the oracle cards, and yeah, just going into the course and learning that there's so much more, not just the communication, but the colour therapy, and going in deeper.
Psychometry, and just learning what you can do from, and the difference between being psychic and spiritually connecting with the communication, because we talk about being psychic, and we do readings, and people will say to me all the time, oh, could you do a reading for me? And I'm always like, I don't do readings, I do a communication. I don't generally work psychically. I do an actual spiritual communication, which is what I always try to instill into everybody that comes on the courses. You can have a psychic element to you and work psychically, like with your cards and all these different things, but it's lovely to be able to actually connect. And that's what you've been doing. So
I've been
you're a new person.
Yeah.
I mean, you hair's changed. You seem so different. I know you're living in the moment, but you seem so different. And I don't think it's so much a difference. I think it's just you've peeled off some of the layers more to get to the core of who you are, Ginny. And it's so lovely to see. So where are you now? That's what I want to know, because I'm so nosy. I want to know where you are now. Come on, give us the gossip, girl.
Well, it's a kind of, I've gone this far, I might as well get on with it. And and I had a lovely image from Orion, and he showed me a glass door with nothing on either side and a pathway to the glass door. And so I could have gone around the door, but the whole point was he was pushing me to go through, because I could see it because it was glass, but he wanted me to go through this door. So this is what I've done, metaphorically speaking, following his advice. And I want to get more experience, but I'm very aware that I'm very new to this. Yeah. So I put a message out on Facebook asking for some case studies, people that would be interested in a free communication, with the understanding that I'm new to this and I'm learning. For those people with perhaps horses that they've got problems with, and that we could work together. And I was inundated.
This is so exciting. This is so exciting to have all these. It's almost like all these opportunities to just work on your craft, work on this gift that you've got.
Yes.
You've done some.
I've done loads, yeah.
And you got your insurance, which I was really pleased about. Good.
Yes, got my insurance. I've done quite a lot of photographic communications, but I've also been out and done in the physical as well, been to a yard and seen a couple there, and I've got some more booked up. But they're but they're ones I'm going to follow through, because some of the behaviours and things and the issues that we've addressed, I want to follow through over the next few months and just see how things change. Just as a case study, just to see how I can find two things, because how I interpreted the information in the first instance, maybe it wasn't quite right, maybe it meant this or meant that. But when you do get something for the first time,
it's all learning experiences.
It is.
It's learning experiences, and some people just dip the toe in. But girl, you just got on the edge of the pier and you jumped in, and I just love that. I love people like that. We're either doing it or we're not doing it. Yeah. And you just took that deep breath, held your nose, and jumped in. And guess what? Absolutely. You're swimming.
Yeah. Well, I remember how it felt when I had Melody, and I'd been through all the different I don't know what techniques or the different aspects of things that were available. And I remember feeling like that there's nowhere left to turn. And it's always the animal that suffers in those instances. They get rehomed, or they get put to sleep, or they get neglected in some way, or the poor owner just hasn't got the love for it anymore, because they just got nothing left to give. I've been there.
I know.
And they're the kind of relationships that I want to try and help the people that are that. The horses and the humans are just miscommunicating, and the horses are screaming for help, and the human perhaps just doesn't know where to turn next.
And then animal communication is a great place to start, isn't it?
Yeah,
to help them, and that's what you're doing. Ginny, have you got any words for anybody that may be watching this that's thinking, oh, I might have a go at doing a course, I might start to look at animal communication, not necessarily with me, but just in general? What would you say to them? They're just thinking about it, but they're not sure.
Just go for it. You've got absolutely nothing to lose. It's changed my whole life, not just with my horses, but in my job and just everything now, because whatever I do now, I consider my intention behind what I'm doing or saying. And it's my relationships with other people have improved. It's helped. I do training in my job, so it's helped deliver training. And it's just changed. Honestly, it changed my whole life. And even if you don't want to go off and help other people, you just want your own relationship with your own animal to be on a deeper level. I can't say anything more about it. It's just.
I get it. Thank you, Ginny. I have really, really great feelings about you from the day that I met you, that I wanted to guide and help you. And I know you're coming down to do a one-to-one session with me, which I'm looking forward to doing with you. I will help you wherever I can and offer anyone else to you that I can think of that could help you as well, because I know that you're just flying and you're just going to do so much. So, and it's about being a voice for animals. I'm looking at somebody, everybody watching this is looking at another, I've got to go that way because you're going to be that way, another person that's out there being a voice. And yet we're all capable of it. This is the thing. Every animal could have somebody listen to them, but we can only do what we can do. But there's more of us coming through, and it's just wonderful. And you're part of this, and you've part of the In Project, and you're out there doing it. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you, and for what you are doing and what you will do for so many animals that need your help. Just absolutely bless you, really. Don't stop.
Thank you, Richard. I've only just started.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, then don't stop. This is great. It's great. Ginny, thank you so much for being part of this interview series. You're just such the right person to have as the first one. You're so inspiring to me as well, that you're out there doing it. And I see in you all the things that you'd be feeling that I felt when I started out, and every other student, and yet you're doing it. I'm so proud of you. Thank you, Ginny. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. And for everybody else, I'm sure you'll agree, Ginny's a fantastic lady with so much to offer to the animals. How lucky are we all to have this, So next week, I'll look forward to sharing with you experiences with another student that's been on the courses, and a bit more about their life and how they found their own spirituality. But until then, I'll leave it as thank you very much, Ginny. Thank you very much. Take care, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, thank you, Richard.
Take care, Ginny. Bye. Bye. Bye.